Eden Kaz here with Just Be, and we are about to take a spiritual boom. We are at an unprecedented time in human history where we are transitioning from 3D to 5D within the great spiritual awakening. This video and audio podcast is the place for you to find your truth beyond politics, your sovereignty, your voice. Let's kick up your vibration now. By the way, each episode ends with the Just Be practice to do just that. And as we begin the show, just to know a little bit more about me, I'm a soul realignment specialist, meditation master, and dimensional healer. Learn more, and there's merch also at EdenJustBe.com. Let's get this party started. Okay, and I take notes because I produce everything, so I have to.
You're a one-woman show.
I'm a one-woman show. Eden, Just Be Spiritual Boom in association with the Grassroots Warriors Network. Welcome, public high school teacher and dear client, Carrie Daly. How you doing?
Hello, how are you? I'm doing well on this fine day.
Good,
sunny day.
Yeah. So we're here in Ohio, so Carrie's local as well. And it's in the 70s and sunny today, and we're in October. Mm-hmm. Which me being a Southern girl, normally by this time we'd be wearing sweaters and all that stuff. So it's beautiful. Mm-hmm. It's beautiful. Today we are going to be focusing on teens and phones in the classroom. Okay, and as I said, we are both local in Ohio, but this has nothing to do with just being in Ohio. This applies to everybody, everywhere, to parents everywhere. And I really appreciate Carrie coming on today because we've talked about this when we had sessions together. She has a bird's eye view of how this is affecting teens. So tell me if I have this correct, Carrie. In Ohio, and there are several states that have a statewide ban. Okay, we're going to go over this map in a little bit. So several states that have a statewide ban on phones during school hours. There are several with pilot grant programs to limit phone usage. And then there are states that have guidelines on phone usage. So is this right? In Ohio, starting in January 1st of 2026, there will be a statewide ban?
Well, Ohio is still going to operate under a guideline.
Oh, understood.
But schools were required in July of this year to report to the state what their plan was to ban phones during instructional time or during the school day. Okay. And so each school was required to come up with their plan and submit that to the state. So it doesn't have to go into effect though until January 1st.
Okay. And the big thing is y'all have put yours in effect at the beginning of school, where some schools are going to start doing theirs halfway through the school year.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
Okay. So to clarify, right now, there's a ban during instruction time, not in the halls per se.
Well, see, this is where Ohio's law is written in trusting that the schools will come up with a policy that works best for them. Some of our other states that provided funding to schools for like lock boxes and things of that nature, they had a little more stringent of like a full-on ban. The school in which I teach took the full-on ban approach, which good news. It's good news.
We are going to get into that because, as you guys know, I didn't put these in my notes, but I do want to say this, that I feel that phones oh my God, they are like the devil sometimes. Okay, can I be that strong with things? So not only the EMF radiation that emits from them, but also social media. And I've had several folks on the show like this. Carrie, I don't know if I told you about this. This one guy, younger. He works at this company now with his dad called the Privacy Company. So he was a line cook in his early 20s. He was really depressed this day, was listening to the song Rotten Apples over and over again. He gets home, gets on TikTok. There's a meme that shows up to him. Well, you're a line cook listening to Rotten Apples all day and having suicidal thoughts. And he looked at that and he went, oh my gosh, what my dad has been saying this whole time, like my phone listens to me, AI. So there's so much more to it than meets the eye. And I've said on many shows, oh my gosh, do not let your children take their phones up with them at night. I've had some clients tell me stories, and a young person tell me a story of what she would look at night, because pretty much everything's accessible. It's just okay. Yet phones are also, in a sense, necessary. So to find a balance within that. All right. So, two things to talk about before we get into Carrie's bio. And let me go ahead and state Carrie knows about the human ascension that's going on, yet we haven't gone into really heavy duty details with that yet. So, we're not going to go into the bigger picture of that today. Yet, I want to go into your personal awakening, which corresponds with all this some too. So we're going to get to that. All right, two things. I'm conducting an international Zoom class on Sunday, October 19th from 12:30 to 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, which that is really good for all time zones except for maybe Australia. $30 with complete steps for those desiring a 5D evolved divine relationship. Okay, right now, Carrie, this is for single people only, which Carrie is not. Yet I'm flexible if married people want to come my way. I might do 2 separate classes. I don't know yet, because there are several married couples that I'm working on with this as well. There are qualifications. So if you have interest, email me at edenjustbe.com, and we'll go over those together and see if this is a fit for you. Quickly, I came out of a 5-year or 25-year marriage. Spent 5 years learning to really love myself and to heal. And I've been in my own divine relationship now for 8 months. So I feel like I can really talk about this now. And then finally, I'm going to go into this ad nauseum. Y'all might get tired of me talking about this, but I feel it's so important. So episode 188, Gold IRA scams. So investing your IRA into precious metals is so great, yet who you go to is so important. So I've never stated names before, but I am this time because I was involved in this scam. So Gold Co., Birch Gold, not so great. So Miles Franklin came on the show because Andy, one of the precious metal experts there, was working with me for free to help me get out of this scam that I was in. And amazingly, it turns out, even though this was a scam, I made a lot of money. So now that I'm with someone legit, I can't even imagine what's going to happen. So when you see Andy and Kevin on the show, so Kevin was the one that assisted me, really great. I think you will like them. Yet it's way more than just them looking good and presenting good. Kevin is helping people out of the goodness of his heart. He's doing this for service. It doesn't matter if you transfer your funds over to them at Miles Franklin. It really doesn't, because they have seen so many people be hurt by this. So yeah, I love it. And I feel so good about them. So contact info@milesfranklin.com. Put me in the subject line, as I have a personal relationship with them. Kevin's been working with me now for over 2 months. So if you want to ask questions about your IRA, or if you want to invest with them, I highly recommend it. Take a breath there. I think I'd like to read a bio now. Carrie, with 27 years of experience as a secondary educator, and this means high school, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Carrie Daly brings deep expertise in psychology, sociology, and ethics into the classroom. As a professor of sociology, Carrie focuses her research on teacher burnout, aiming to understand and address the challenges educators face in today's educational landscape. Carrie is passionate about helping students grow, and I've seen this, into thoughtful, critical thinkers, and integrates mindfulness practices into her teaching to support both academic and personal growth. Outside of her career, Carrie enjoys making plant-based meals. I love this, for anyone willing to try her creations, which who knows who's willing to do that. She likes reading, finding peace in nature, and making miniature items for her fairy garden. So great. Girl, I was looking this up. Our first session was February 2022.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's been a while, and your daughter brought you to me. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm. That is correct.
I love this. All right. Tell me about your journey. And I specifically want to know about potentially two turning points, but that might be discussed in what you're going to talk about anyway. Okay. So please begin, and thank you for your patience.
Oh, no. Glad to be here. Um, only two key takeaways
Oh,
from
let's
doing
go,
all this
girl.
work. I know, right? Doing the work. But it's so interesting that what brought me to you was a concern for others,
Yeah.
and then really realizing that, you know, the classic, we don't control other people. They are their own, sentient beings. And finding the strength inside of myself is really what is elevating people around me as just like a byproduct. And so here I was thinking, oh, I'm going to go see this Eden lady to help others. And really, it's like, oh, doing some inside work is really what is the key to helping others,
Well,
was
and
working on myself first.
yes. Yeah, and that with your daughter for a moment, it was like, "Oh, there are these concerns here. How did you contribute to this, Carrie? What are your
Mhm.
Oh, me. Again, I was looking at like help her. Oh, okay. Uh yeah, so please continue.
And so, I mean, I think, like as you said in my bio, my big research area is teacher burnout, because I kept thinking probably the past, well, it goes back to before COVID, but COVID, we know, really, um, I was the nail in the coffin, so to speak.
Yeah.
Um, what is wrong, like, with education? What is wrong with teens today? What is wrong? And it's the work needs done. I mean, everybody needs to put some of the work in. We can talk about how the phones are distracting us from the
Yeah.
real work.
Yes.
But really, it's just coming into that strength of, questioning the narrative. Like, don't get me wrong, most people go into education out of love, out of service to others, but recognizing that some societal pressures of putting the onus on, like, fixing others.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, 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 no. Like, that is most certainly a personal journey that each of us is on this planet, right? Earth school, as we always call it. Um, and that's something, like, working on myself is how I show students and, my own daughter how to do this life. But, like, I can't fix the problems for you. I think that's probably the biggest, like, my stress and anxiety was all rooted in thinking that I had to be the one to, like, that I was responsible for everyone else. It's like, well, no. I'm responsible for me,
Yes.
and I'm willing to be of service to others within boundaries.
Yeah.
So I feel like, those have been like the big takeaways in my journey with working with you, was, you know, first of all, having enough of the self-worth to realize that, like, you can't let people take advantage.
Yeah.
And I don't know. And then leading by example rather than rushing in to try to fix
Mhm.
what I perceived was everyone else's problems, instead of perceiving it, hey, these are the struggles they're on for a reason. Like, and that's
Yes.
up to them to work on.
Yes.
I can offer suggestions and advice, but I can't ultimately make another human being do something.
Yes. There I just remembered two important things. There was one time you left class and you were like, "Man, this Earth school, I because there are points where you're like, what is this? I really don't want to be there here. This Earth school is really hard." So you've gotten through some really major points and within that growth and going through that hardship, has it all been beneficial to you?
The hardships.
Yes.
Yeah. Right. And that's, I think, like, at first, I mean, if we had traveled back to that first February meeting all those years ago, I would have thought that was a ridiculous statement to make, right? Like, what do you mean? Like, no, these are bad things. Like, as in, but it's just like, okay, like, no, there were lessons in all of this. And, coming out stronger on the other side of Earth School, I think,
Yes.
is the point of all of this.
Yes, it is the point. Okay, and you tell me if this is okay to talk about. Um, I hadn't planned on bringing this up, but I suddenly feel like this is really important. In the school that you teach before COVID, there were a rash of suicides. Is that correct?
Yes, that is
How
correct.
Okay, and that was before you had started seeing me. How
Mm-hmm.
how how did that affect you in the school? Okay, and when I say rash of suicides, like how can you give me a number?
So yeah, it was 7 across the district, and 8th was a recent graduate,
Okay.
all within the span of 6 months. And so, yeah, like the 17-18 school year was by far, I mean, straight up survival. Just, um,
Man.
compartmentalizing feelings and doing the best that you could with students, like while you had them with you. And, and I don't blame other teachers. I also don't blame school leadership.
Yeah.
I don't blame parents. This is a very complex topic. I just think understanding that for some it just hit so close to home that, I mean, they just couldn't deal, really just could not deal. And so that meant just burying our heads in the sand, business as usual, just keep going, and hope it goes away on its own, which, I mean, mental health is not, those issues are still present. And again, getting back, as we dive into the wonderful world of phones, my research has really, I'm not going to say, like you mentioned, phones are a very important part of living in the 21st century.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of this started with the advent of social media and smartphone usage.
Okay. And I know that's one thing that you and I worked on pretty early on was that there was still obviously some heartache for you and responsibility in terms of that. So that was also great that you started so you could clear some of that off. Okay. Let's do go into phones. We already talked about Ohio, the new legislation that has been passed, and I'm going to put up this map that Carrie provided. Oh gosh, I put the date here somewhere. I mean, it's recent from Newsweek. That it shows the United States in terms of who has implemented a statewide ban, who is in a pilot program, who has guidelines, and they're color coded. What I found was so amazing, and I talked to Carrie about this before the show began, was that so many southern states, which kind of blew my mind, have a statewide ban. For my hometown of Georgia, Alabama. I'm looking at this. You'll be able to see it too. South Carolina. And for those who are listening, I'll read some of Florida. Let's keep going. New York, Indiana, North Dakota, Nevada, Utah. Wait, go back to southern Louisiana, Texas, Oklahoma. So interesting. And I also wonder, like the time frame when the ban was implemented, when all of this has been implemented. So that's not there. So tell me, well, you lead us off. Do you want to talk about your feelings of phones, what you have seen? Yeah. What would you like to start with, Carrie?
I mean, so I think my story is not unique. If you talk to educators across the country, we've all been feeling like something is off in the classroom.
Okay.
It's the constant, like, disengagement, short attention spans, lack of focus, and just, coming to terms with the fact. I mean, for me, having been a teacher for 27 years, I
Yeah.
kept thinking, am I just, is it time to put Carrie out to pasture? Am I past my expiration date? Am I just too old fashioned? Is the modern world, am I not keeping up with it? So then I found myself spending a number of years. I actually got a degree in instructional technology and design. I thought, well, if I want to engage children in learning, the key is I have to play the technology game. I need to develop things that
Whoa.
are engaging and entertaining and fast paced and visually pleasing, which any of us as teachers know there is no amount of graphic design, computer game, learning programs that we as teachers have access to or make ourselves
Mm.
that is going to compete with Silicon Valley. There's no way. Like, they will always beat us when it comes to um, algorithmic design to hook brains into their products. And so, then I unfortunately came to the conclusion, well, perhaps I'm just burned out then, and I should just give up. But then the more that I did this research, I'm like, whoa, 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 I actually don't think that I'm alone in this struggle.
Yeah.
And let me start doing some digging. The book that I gave you that I think you'll probably link in your show notes. Jonathan Haidt, a social psychologist, wrote The Anxious Generation, by far one of the most impactful books that I have read in a decade, easily. Wow. Spent a number of years doing the research, but the key takeaway here is that since probably the late 90s, early 2000s, as like computers and technology start coming into our lives, we've kind of all been operating under this false belief that the world out there is a dangerous place for our children.
Yeah.
And so we need to keep them home, isolated, alone, and give them access to the internet, because if they're under our roof, they're safe.
Ooh.
And right? And so really it was the unfettered access to all of the dark things that we can find online that Jonathan Haidt in his research is connecting to these increases in teen anxiety, teen depression, suicide ideation, suicide completion. And I thought to myself, wow, like I like my school felt that in 2017, 2018. And then, you'd think, okay, then COVID locks us down and forces us even more to rely on the technology.
Yes.
And this the second big takeaway for me is that this false assumption that we are the consumers of technology. We are not the consumers. We are the product. They're selling us and selling our children's data for a profit.
Girl, so, I'm going to interrupt you for a moment. I am so glad we're having this conversation today. I'm so glad. Please continue.
I mean, so for me, reading that book, first of all, a heads up, any parent that reads this book, don't feel bad. At first I was like, oh no, like again, I've contributed to the downfall of society by letting my kid have access to technology. Look, we didn't know what we didn't know.
Yeah.
But I feel like after doing the research as in my field of sociology, I can't not do something about it now. So even before Ohio passed their legislation, I knew that this was the school year where it wasn't happening in my room. Now, I had done that. Honestly, I had done that in previous years, but the problem was because I didn't have any support elsewhere in the building. It was just me being the mean teacher, and in a constant police state of I would have to walk and patrol, because the minute I turned away, we were back on the phone, like hiding them under desks, hiding them behind laptop screens. And I just like realizing that, we're not the consumer, we're the product.
Okay. One thing I want to go into, which I hadn't thought about this until you and I talked about it a while back. And let me add, I've communicated this on the podcast before, that I didn't let my kids have phones until like the 8th grade. Everybody else had a phone, and probably now they get them in 1st grade. I don't even know what the age is. And like, even then it was like, how she really couldn't be, neither of them could be responsible with it, even though we put parental controls on it, and we kept them downstairs at dinner, not at the table, and certain hours to connect with them. But okay, so I was, when you talked to me about Google Classrooms and the students, oh, Google's going to give these things to students. Oh, isn't this so nice? It's not nice. Talk a little bit about that for a moment.
Yeah. So, again, I think that was, teachers wanting to I don't know, gain the attention of our students. So, okay, we have to fight fire with fire. We're going to institute more tech into the classroom, more. And I mean, not all, but most schools like in our area are one-to-one technology by the time you're at least in middle school, and definitely by high school, which means the school is issuing an electronic Chromebook or, laptop computer or tablet device to every student. Now, I don't want to dismiss, there are some good things. And if we're trying to train students to be, effective workers in the 21st century, I mean, understanding how to use tech in a productive manner is not necessarily a bad thing.
Right.
But it's just highly interesting that now all these tech companies are, we've addicted the children to the technology. Now we can sell these products to schools, because we now know that their attention spans have been eroded to the point where this is the only thing that is going to get them to pay attention, so to speak. And so, yeah, I mean, I try to explain to my students all the time, Google's not providing this for free out of the goodness of their hearts, right? Like,
right.
They're selling. Now, I will applaud the state of Ohio. We did pass Senate Bill 29 that passed last year, required technology companies to have severe, like stringent, let's use that word, stringent privacy policies when it came to student data that they were collecting off of these school devices, which means that there are some programs that, at my school teachers had used in the past, that they're no longer allowed to use because those companies did not meet the requirements for protecting student data and not selling it to other companies, which so good. Like, I know that sometimes, we're like, what is the government doing to help us? I mean, I do applaud the General Assembly. These are some good pieces of legislation that passed to protect students from their information being sold.
All right. So you noticed that the more technology was brought into the classroom and the more phones were being developed and brought into our lives, that school, like attention spans. Okay. And I have to add with this, I work with a lot of teens now, and it is just, again, not because, a lot because of COVID, but I think it's all of this, not wanting to come out of the bedrooms, not wanting to make phone calls, to make appointments, the anxiousness, again, how you talked about, ooh, this big thing with parents, now keep your child under the roof and you'll keep them safe. Now they don't want to go out of their homes. They don't want to, when they leave their 20s or hit their 20s, they don't want to leave their parents' home. There are so many young adults, and we know that money is an issue right now, but beyond that, are living at home that aren't really, and driving a car. I think we talked about this too. Man, when I turned 15, let's get that permit. And when I turned 16, oh my gosh, children being, or young adults being scared to drive a car, to go out there on their own. So where do you want to lead from this? Do you want to go more into what you've noticed or the change that you've noticed since the policy has started?
Well, we can probably talk about both of those at the same time.
Awesome.
So the law does not go into effect in our state until January 1. I applaud that my personal school district decided that's an awful hard switch to make mid-school year. So we're going to begin the school year with these good habits. It was a struggle, and I'm not going to say it's not still a struggle, right? We're, like a month and a half, almost 2 months into the school year. And I think it's, my psychology and sociology background lets me realize, okay, this behavior that I am now seeing is a result of withdrawal. Like this is psychological withdrawal from lack of what was really just avoidant behavior, right? When something got too hard in school, when something got too difficult, the student could escape into the world of the phone instead of facing the deficit, right? like I am having a hard time understanding this reading, or I don't understand how to do this, or I don't feel that I'm capable of writing this paragraph you're asking me to write. And so instead of, I don't know, feeling that maybe shame or embarrassment, it was just easier to say, whatever, school doesn't matter. I'm going to be an influencer, right? And I'm just going to
Good
escape
Lord.
into my phone. And
Yeah.
so, um, I did share this research, not just Jonathan Haidt's, but the extra research I had done. Jean Twenge, TWENGE. She's also done a lot of research, to the point where at some points under like like brain scans, like you actually to some point have young people today that feel like the phone is an actual extension of their physical body. And so it was norm for me, having done the research, to tell a student, I understand. It feels like we've literally cut your hand off, doesn't it?
Oh
And for
my
them to be like,
gosh.
yeah, it hurts me. It physically hurts me. I'm like, I understand. It's because,
Okay, can we stop just a moment?
yeah, no, I did. Yeah, I know that's
Jeez.
wild,
Oh my,
wild.
oh my gosh, that this is what it's come to. Okay, for those listening or watching, I mean, this is a moment of truth. Okay, Carrie, please tell us more.
And
She's
so just I think it's important for parents, I mean anyone that's working with young people, right? Parents, teachers, and anyone in the community that's working with young folk, to realize that this is a big ask, because the younger that brain had that phone, that smartphone or that tablet, um, the more hardwired this has now become. And so it's not just a simple, like we've talked about this before. Oh, when we were kid, when I was a kid, the sun came out, you were on your bike and you were gone.
yeah,
And then when the street lights came on, you had to be back home for dinner, right?
yeah.
Nobody knew what we were doing and where we were going. Um, but that really wasn't necessarily a bad thing, in that we were interacting with each other,
Mhm.
developing our own system of rules for that backyard, wiffle ball game or whatever it may be. Just not having those sorts of experiences younger in life now mean that we say put the phone away. We're like saying chop off your right hand and pay attention to me as the teacher. And so I spent, I would say, the first 2 weeks of the school year not even engaging in any content I'm required to teach, just showing the students the research. Now, I teach high school, so it was appropriate, but
Okay.
showing them the research, showing them that you're not the consumer, that you're the product, and the big catchphrase, which they're tired of me saying because we're now 2 months into school, is we have traded in this space. We have traded the mini quick hits of dopamine for some real social connection with each other, which is the oxytocin connection. Like that oxytocin release in our brains comes from community, comes from one-on-one interaction with one another, comes from like empathy, love, all these wonderful things that we're missing when we're engaged in technology. That dopamine hit we're getting from just the quick 5-second reel, or here's the
Mhm.
video, here's the next TikTok video. Sure, that's giving your hippocampus a little dopamine hit there. No different, and Haidt and Jean Twenge do a great job in their research. No different than any other psychoactive substance. Like in a brain scan, that kid's dopamine hit from the TikTok videos is the same as if we had, given them some cocaine. The brain does not see the difference. And so, the kids sometimes roll their eyes. I'm like, nope, nope. Remember, we've traded the dopamine, right, for the authentic connection with other people. And so I've told many of my colleagues, I feel like I am simultaneously teaching juniors and seniors as kindergartners, because we've had to relearn social connection. She looked at me funny, right?
Oh man,
Um,
seriously?
like, like she's touching me, and I'm like, okay, Like we just have to relearn how to interact in a social space, in an academic setting. But I'm like, wow, you never had unstructured play as children. You don't know how to navigate these sorts of things. So it's been a very good year. And I think if anyone listening or watching that has educators in their lives, um, if you look, like, I know, ironically enough, if you look on social media, there are a lot of teachers, there are a lot of teachers saying we're happy that the phones are gone. It's good, but it's now hard. It's hard work, but it's good work.
Okay,
Like,
because
we're seeing a difference.
okay, because you're teach primarily juniors and seniors, or only juniors and
Mhm.
seniors. Okay, and these kids pretty much have grown. Is this probably the first year of students that have started first grade with technology? Is that
So, yeah,
at
if
least
you really
might be
look
close?
at, well, like, so the
Smokes.
first iPhone's 2008, right?
Okay.
And then it's after that we see
Okay.
it's
Thank you.
about 2010 to 2012. You then see that shift to, like, the majority of Americans moving towards a smart device. We're then going to start seeing, Facebook and other social media sites start to pop up. So yeah, right? Like, our kindergarten and first graders have never not known a world
Oh, jeez.
with this.
Okay. Okay. I do want to interject this here, and I hope this is okay to say. I'll keep it very nebulous. I have another client who her has gone into a classroom and is really taking it old school, and she had some of her middle schoolers journal
Mhm.
and looking at what they wrote. Okay, this is another thing. And she showed me what they wrote looked like they were in first grade. Didn't know how to put words together, didn't know how to write. It was, again, another shocking moment. And I found that out, I think, after I'd booked you for the show, which I was like, oh my gosh, this is so important. And Carrie, let me just state, your kids, I feel, are so lucky to have you because you know the importance of life beyond these phones, and you can communicate to them like I'm assuming many other teachers cannot. So I highly give you gratitude and appreciate that. What what were let's two major things you two's the number for you today. Two major things that you noticed, or two of the hardest things to communicate to kids, or the hard. Okay, so like it's cutting off their hand without using a phone. Yeah, what were the hardest things that you noticed with them in terms of reacclimating themselves?
So the reacclimation in explaining to them the draw to the phone was
Okay.
classic avoidant behavior. And then sitting with that uncomfortableness
Yeah.
until we recognize the source. So it's like, I've always had difficulty reading. And so I hate reading. The phone's way cooler. I'm just going to do this
Mm.
instead. It's like, wow, like, how has that made you feel to not be good at something? And, like, let's talk about that. And then I don't know. I hesitate. Like, the big buzzword is growth mindset, but I sometimes hesitate in using it because it's sometimes been weaponized against teachers as like, well, you're just not trying hard enough. Growth mindset. Like, you can get anyone to achieve anything. Well, to an extent, yes, I don't want to ever give up on a student, but I also think it's important to recognize, like, they're coming to us with a whole, I don't know, suitcase of things that have happened to them in the past. And if school has been a negative experience for them, it was way easier to just escape into the phone than to address their shortcomings.
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't want to just say, well, just keep reading. I'm like, well, that we can explore. There's different strategies. Different brains learn how to comprehend and read things in different ways. Maybe you've just never been exposed to the strategy that works for your brain. You want to give it a try, but just recognize, like, that we have to be vulnerable and authentic in that room. So,
Mm-hmm.
like, my classroom's 229. In 229, we are vulnerable and open and just coming to terms with, like, okay, yeah, it really is because I'm not sure, or I'm afraid that I will do this wrong and that I'll
Oh.
look stupid in front of other people. Okay. Like, yeah, nobody wants to feel stupid in front of others. But so then, like, showing them to verbalize, and I make it a huge point when I mess things up to just be like, oh, look what I did. I messed that up. Oops. You know, thanks for, I'm human, it happens. It's not the end of the world. Like, I'm the teacher, but I'm not going to have everything perfect. I'm going to
Yeah.
make mistakes. Just that kind of exposure to that, I think has been the biggest thing. Spending a lot of time practicing how to talk to one another. So, like,
Oh
I
my
had
God.
just like silly
Ah,
topics. Like I begin every day with I actually started this part after the suicide year, with a one word emotional check-in. How are you today? So you
okay.
got to tell me one word. If you need to elaborate, this is the space to do it. Now, I
Mm.
know that some teachers will say, oh my gosh, what if that takes 10 minutes of the class or 20 minutes of the class? My answer is, so it's
Right. It needs
important.
to be.
Right. I feel
Yeah.
like the content will still be there. Be blasting through content when somebody's sitting there upset about something that happened earlier in the day. Do you really think that student's learning anything? They're not.
Well, and
So
I get
let's
it
take the
too.
time to connect.
Yes.
Like, and so, like, we are all quiet and we are all listening to everyone's one word check in. We're doing a couple of deep breaths. And then I've also, to get them talking to each other, have added a new, like, I have these goofball slides of just, clip art. Like, so today's was, would you rather live in a tiny house?
Yeah.
So I had a picture of like a little tiny house in the woods, or an RV, like a camper. And
Okay.
so I have those up on the board. Um, every day I have a different one. And so when students come in, at first they were like, this is stupid. Like, why are we doing this? Oh, but now if I'm like in a meeting and
Fun.
I'm running late, they're like, hey, where's our would you rather? Like, what's our thing today?
Oh,
And
fun.
to just practice like talking to each other. Like, we had never eat chocolate or never eat ice cream again.
Okay.
And so they're just like, well, do you think that she means, what if the ice cream is chocolate flavored? It just, it doesn't matter. They're stupid, right? They're nonsensical. They have nothing to do with my content, but we're engaging in a discussion with other people that may not think the same way we do, might present
Right.
ideas different than ours. And we're listening and we're considering what they said. Oh, that's a good point. What if the chocolate's in the ice cream?
Yeah.
Like, can my tiny house be on a trailer so I can still travel? I'm like, I don't know. What do we all think? It, it's goofy, but I would say, almost 9 weeks into the school year, oh, if I don't have that up when they walk in, like, I'm hearing about it, which I think is great.
I love it too because this is also teaching critical thinking, thinking outside of the
Mhm.
box, thinking about, and to me, it isn't nonsensical at all. It's life. And I wanted to ask you, part of the problem that I understand with teaching is there's also so much of a time frame put on you guys instead of, oh, we're going to sit here in 10 minutes and talk about feelings, knowing that that will heavily contribute to learning. Yet you guys are given such a task that this needs to be done by this time, and all these lists, and now class begins at like what 11:03 and ends at 11:43, and lunch is 16 minutes. I mean, it is challenging for you guys. How do you do it anyway? Phones or no phones?
Yeah, so again, that's in my research on teacher burnout.
Mm-hmm.
That is an interesting exploration. I think culturally, we have become so fixated on quantifying everything,
Yeah.
including human beings, which, I'm sorry, there's just an element of being humans that we don't need to quantify with data or stats. The problem, of course, came about 25 years ago when the government decided, like, let's quantify student learning with a battery of standardized tests, which most states in the union are still dealing with,
Yeah.
um, and tying teacher pay and performance to student data. Like I'm producing widgets on an assembly line. But if
Ooh.
I don't meet these right? If I don't meet these growth, and I mean, goodness, who knows how they even calculate these things? That's always a mystery in the field of education. Like, how is this even calculated? But this whole obsession that we as a culture have with quantifying things, data, stats, I think it's trust teachers as the professionals. Like I've got a pulse on who knows things and who doesn't, who needs my help, who doesn't. If I don't have a spreadsheet, I'm sorry, right? But I mean, I already know that the way that I'm evaluated in the state of Ohio means that because I don't keep a spreadsheet of data on that sort of thing, I will be marked down in the evaluation rubric. I've just kind of come to the conclusion, though, that in my heart, I know that I am doing right by my students, and I don't care what label the state of Ohio gives me. You want to give me a label of ineffective? Okay. Like,
and we've worked on this too.
Right?
Like there was a part of you that was like, oh, I have to do this and I have to do this. I'm like, no, you don't. What do you mean I don't? So this has also been a process for you because it is, I mean, when you talk about teacher burnout, all of it contributes. And it's funny as we talk about phones and data, and that everything right now is about data, is about, okay, and I feel getting back to humanity. You had told me one thing, I see if you remember this, I can't remember it completely. One thing you had told a student about phones, and then she ended up repeating it back to you later. Like it was one of these moments where like they're really listening to you. Do you remember what that was?
Oh, I'm trying to remember what that specific example was. I don't know if I can. Do you have any more details?
I do not. But it was something that you had said about phones do this, and she was doing something a different way. Oh, okay. Does that help?
Was it the algorithm? Was that because the kids' minds were blown when I'm like, you're being tracked with an algorithm. And it was the fact, like, one of the things that surprised them was I'm like, the fact that we all, like, that I have tables in my room. And so we have groups of 4.
Okay.
And I said, you understand that my guess is that most of these students don't have their privacy locked down on their phones because these tech companies have made it more of an opt-in versus an opt-out. So if you don't go into settings, and I mean, there's like lots of people on social media and YouTube that make videos to show how to protect your privacy. I know you've had people on your show that talk about that topic. I just told the students, hey, my guess is because you don't do that, start talking about something totally random. But because all of your phones are being pinged in the same location, and if your phone's connected to the school Wi-Fi, they're on the same IP address. I said, you will start to notice things in your social media feed changing as a result of you being in the same room near each other's phones.
Oh, man.
Right? So I don't know if that's the one that you but that was a big one where they were like, whoa. They're like, you were right. We just started talking. I forget what they were talking about. Wow. Raincoats or something. They picked something totally random. And then they're like, oh, I started getting ads for that. I'm like, yeah, because you were talking about it. Somebody's phone's listening because you haven't turned that feature off. And then it's these companies are looking at whose phones are near. So, I mean, these kids don't get it. When you say, I agree, like I'm not just slamming on TikTok. They're all equally evil, but you say like, you hit that I agree, like by uploading a video to these tech sites, you've basically given unfettered access to everything on your device. And so they're just gathering information. How can we sell more things? We'll sell you as a product and then also sell you more products as a result of these like very intricate algorithms that these companies have developed. So I think, I don't know, it's been helpful in getting kids, but I mean, the kids they see things. I don't know if the example you're thinking about is recent current events where I just can't believe like children, right? I mean, I know they're 17 and 18, but children are witnessing death live on their phones or like recordings of death on their phones. It's not something that any of us should be seeing.
Oh, and then
let alone repeatedly.
Pornography.
They can't, right?
Right. And I expressed to you, and I've said it on the show many times when I was working in classrooms and the seventh graders pulled out their pornography on their phone.
Mm-hmm.
And I've had many
Mm-hmm.
guests on the show that talk about auras and that sort of thing and energy, that when younger folks are bombarded with this sexuality at an age that they're not ready for yet, it changes the chemistry of the brain. It changes everything. There was another point I was going to make on this. Oh, and then my client that I was telling you about, not client, the guest on the show who was talking about rotten apples and who got the TikTok meme, that essentially that AI now, especially in the new with it, they take pictures of your screen and it almost doesn't
Mm-hmm.
matter what privacy things you have selected or not. It overrides it. And then Snowden coming out basically saying they listen to your voice all the time. It's just like, even to talk about it, it's crazy town. But to realize this is reality and this is going on right now. All right, what have you noticed, Carrie? And maybe we'll get to the Just Be practice after this. What have you noticed that's so good because they're not having their phones there as a third extension, their body? What have you started seeing happening?
So I think, I sold them on my slogan of let's get rid of the minor dopamine hits for the major oxytocin boost. Uh, I think that they're starting to see it. That
Okay.
like we look forward to coming, and it's just magical to see. I'm like, yeah, look at like y'all weren't friends before you came to this
Oh,
class. And it's just like, like like genuinely wanting that connection. Like, how was your weekend? What did you do? Yeah, sure. They're talking about all those things while they're talking about whatever goofy thing is on the screen to talk about. Um, but I think that we're starting to see the benefit of that, and that now we can kind of move into um some harder conversations about, whether it be like psychology and mental health, um, where they're in ethics class talking about all of these AI things, which has been a big topic for us lately. We actually had an AI created student. I had an AI created student join my class discussion on AI.
jeez. Wow.
I mean, so, but to engage in some really hard,
Yeah.
like political discussions, ethical discussions, mental health discussions that I think, unfortunately, social media has let us cancel one another.
Yeah.
Like when we don't like this, so I'm unfollowing, I'm blocking, I'm canceling, and showing them like the world is full of all sorts of different people on all sorts of different journeys. Um, we are more alike than we are different. We just are. We're more alike than we are different. And getting them to like that is the thing that I'm like, oh, here I was thinking I need an exit. I mean, I talked to you plenty about this. I need an exit strategy to get out of this field of education to now be like, no, this is some good work. This is some real work. So yeah, I know they might not remember it as a single vocabulary word from any of my classes. I don't care. They're going to remember how they were treated by others and
And by
how
you.
to, yeah, and
And
how
by
to
you.
engage. Yes, thank you.
You're welcome.
But but how to engage in conversations with people that are different from us or that we maybe didn't know, how to make friends, how to, I don't know, small talk, whatever. I think those are great human skills that will serve them well on their journey post high school. So it's been great. It really has been a great year.
So it sounds like a reason for you to potentially stay for a little bit longer.
Yeah. I'm kind of in this like, oh, this is going well. Let's just see. You
Yeah.
know, I still think there's still a big draw of I'm feeling this pull to educate other teachers on this as well. Because I feel like
I,
we feel alone. Like, oh, is it
yeah.
just me? I can't connect with students anymore. They don't care about school anymore. As many magical, fun and technology games as I'm throwing at them, they're not interested. And I think, no, we can like you said, we can kind of go back to some more old school ways, but it's going to require a little bit of like socialization to get them there.
Oh my gosh.
But it's worth it. I was like going into this school year doing
Yeah.
this research. I don't care if it takes the whole first month of the school year. I don't care if we don't get to a single curriculum thing. Like this is the sword I'm willing to fall on. But I haven't had to fall on a sword. It's been hard, but they're hanging with me, and we're making some great connections.
How the first week that it happened, what was that like?
The
Did
first week,
anyone cry? Like, was it that?
we had a lot of fights, like physical fights
Mm-hmm.
amongst students, and I think it was just that tension, and we didn't understand why we were feeling this way.
Mm-hmm.
And so we don't know how to properly interact with people. And so we were taking our aggressions and withdrawals out on others. Um, we did have to lay the hammer down concerning consequences, but I think that was that worked for probably 80 to 90% of the school population.
Mm-hmm.
Like, well, I don't want to get in trouble. So even though I
Mm-hmm.
don't like this, I'll do it. Some of those that are a little more addicted, it's taken some time, but I think most of them have agreed, like, yeah, like, I don't know, like this haze has been lifted from their eyes and they're just like, wow, there's like a lot of really interesting things we can learn and do and talk about in school. I'm like, yeah, there is. It's pretty cool.
It
You
is
should,
very cool.
yeah.
Are you seeing resiliency?
I am seeing uh teachers having to make a concerted effort to model and teach resiliency.
Wow.
I don't think that it is not there intuitively. I
Okay.
mean, I really think that is something that was socialized into all of us. I mean, I haven't done any specific research on that, but
Okay.
like I think about like learning to ride my bike. I was so determined, right? Even though I fell and scraped my knee and
Mm-hmm.
I was like, nope, I'm going to keep doing this. Um that the immediate gratification as the result of technology, I do think has kind of chipped away at some of that grit, some of that
Yeah, and
resiliency.
determination. Yeah.
Yeah. And so just modeling it and then just explicitly, I found I have to be very explicit in stating things like, now you probably won't get this right the first time we do this.
Oh my gosh.
So when that happens, not if, when you mess up, what are some strategies that we can use? Because again, I think the mistake that we could make in education is just saying effort. Like, well, just try again.
Oh,
Just try
yeah.
again. No, no.
Right.
Effective effort, right? Which means, okay, this strategy didn't work for me. So now let
Mm.
me try, you know. So I'm like, we're building your toolbox of different strategies. And like you're gonna learn, like, okay, in this situation, this is what works for me. In this situation, this is what works for me. But that's been a big part of the school year as well, is explicitly teaching strategies for effective effort, because we just want to give up because I mean, think on in the online world, everything's instant.
Yeah.
Like, like we're like, oh, who was that artist that sang that song back in the
Yes.
80s? We can just look it up.
Bing.
Oh, there it is. There it
Yep.
is. Okay. And move on with our lives. And so I think students are just like, well, why don't I have a perfect 100% A on this? I'm like, well, because you're new at learning. No, like you've never had a psychology class before. So you don't know this yet. Right. Like you don't know this yet, but we just have to keep working on it. And I have a bunch of strategies that we can try to see what works for you. Um, but yeah, that instantaneous. Or like, I love this one, handing me a paper, physically handing. When's that going to be graded in the grade book? What? You just handed it to me, and just explaining like, okay, like, remember, like, I teach 149 other of you throughout the day. Like, I will get to this. Thank you so much for giving me this. They think it's silly that I totally stole this from you. I call them presents when they give me, like, oh, thank you for this present. I can't wait to read it. You're like, oh, thank
Awesome.
you. I love that. I'm looking forward to reading this. Just, it's not going to happen immediately, right? Like,
Right. Like, boom. It's all done.
mm-hmm,
I will end with this. I think that also with AI, like you don't have to think anymore, and I think
mm-hmm,
that's part of what's the intention is, as evil as this sounds, that for human beings not to have to think anymore, to have all the
right.
answers there, so you can just be, and you can cancel, you can block, and you can friend, and you can just move along. Like you said, the haze is coming out of their eyes because so much is robotic at this point.
Right.
So getting back to the heart, getting back to humanity. And Carrie, you're doing an excellent job, and hopefully this will be passed to other educators as well. And I think that book, The Anxious Generation, that sounds super great. Okay, if there's anything else you want to say, please do at this point. Otherwise, let's move to the practice.
Yeah, I think we're good. I think
Okay.
the practice has been helpful to students, so hopefully it could be helpful to others.
Okay, and urge surfing, please explain.
Just be
Okay, so
practice.
urge surfing is not something that Carrie has developed here. This comes to us from, gosh, I might have to look this up and correct it in your show notes if I'm wrong, but
Okay.
I think it was Dr. Walter. This is something that's been around since the 80s,
Oh,
and it's
wow.
been used a lot in addiction recovery. So
Okay.
when I was like, okay, I have students off phones, yay, they are like tweaking out on me as if I'm dealing with addicts. What can I do to help them? So that I'm like, okay, let me do some research. And again, because I'm the psych teacher at school, other teachers were like, well, how do we help them? Like they're going nuts without their phones. And so urge surfing was something that kind of comes out of addiction and recovery counseling. But
Mhm.
I have found that it's been somewhat effective here in the when we have an urge to grab our phone, because urges in our bodies and brains really aren't going to last that long if you he called it surfing, if we ride the wave of the urge
Yeah.
instead of like in the ocean. Like if you try to like resist the wave, it's going to crash over you and pull you under and you're going to be clamoring. And so we don't want to fight urges. We want to ride the wave. We're going to urge surf. So that's the background of it.
Nice. Nice. Okay, can you give an example of that?
Yeah, of urge surfing.
Yes.
Okay. So let's say, I mean, you can use it for any number of things. Like
Hmm.
I said, it began with drug addiction and recovery,
Hmm.
but I think about like eating. I have an urge for some chips or a snack. Instead of just that, let me go grab the junk food. Um, Sitting, you start with some deep breathing. We're not going to judge. We're just going to observe this. And then we're going to kind of ride this wave, feeling like, where is that urge in my body? Where is that urge? Like, what kind of feelings is it provoking inside of me? What kind of emotions is it bringing up? And so, oh, I'm not hungry. I'm sad. I'm not really hungry. I'm bored. Right. And it's just that you ride the urge, um, feel the feels, observe the feels kind of without any sort of judgment. And through breathing and doing that kind of mental visualization, oh, well, then the wave goes away. It subsides.
Okay, or
So, I
even
mean,
like maybe in that chips thing, you're like, oh, I actually do want some chips. It could
well,
be
sure. Yeah,
anything.
it could be that.
Okay.
Um, but just like the faster that we give
Yeah.
into an urge, um, the more often it'll just keep popping up because your
Mhm.
brain's like, oh, well, when I think this, you give me this, right? Like this is whether it be drugs or the phone or whatever. And it's like, well, it doesn't always have to be that way. And so if you're in an instance like school where you're not allowed to touch your phone, but you're getting that like, oh, my hand has been chopped off and I have all these feelings. Ooh, okay, let's ride the wave. Let's see what happens.
Okay.
Let's see if you can just ride it out instead of giving into it all the time.
Nice.
Or trying to fight it, because we know that doesn't work either.
Right. And just a chance to see what it really is, what the truth of it is.
Mm-hmm.
What the truth is. Nice. Carrie, man, that's a lot. And I'm assuming now this is implementing in Ohio at all levels and all grades.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that is so super good. The states right now that aren't doing anything, I'm going to call. I don't know if I'm. Well, let's go through Arizona, New Mexico, Colorado, Wyoming, Idaho. What's MT? Montana. Thank you. South Dakota, Wisconsin, Michigan, Illinois, Missouri, Mississippi, North Carolina, Maryland, New Jersey, Massachusetts, Vermont, and Maine. Y'all states, get on it. This is so important for our youth, for the people that have been grown up and all this. And Carrie, I consider myself at this point very lucky that I wasn't born into this. This wasn't all around me, because I can detach from it. I don't right now, and I feel like this is where I need to be. I don't use AI, because it's just not. I don't feel it's where I'm supposed to be at the moment, but I know it's really helpful, and I know there's some huge benefits to it. Yet I feel that for me to be autonomous, for me to be sovereign, it's very important for me to do that right now. And I do use my phone, yet I use it for work. I'd really try and stay off of it on other occasions. It's just this freedom, and I just, and heart and feeling, and it's, yeah. Okay. Anything you want to add to finish this out?
No, I 100% agree with you. We didn't have this in our formative years, so we can.
Formative
I
years.
mean, I'm not saying there aren't adults that still aren't addicted to tech,
Yes.
but a lot easier to break that habit when it wasn't hardwired into your brain at a young age. These young people definitely have it a lot harder than we did. And I tell them that all the time. I'm like, look, give yourself some credit in that regard, that navigating the world that you are in right now as a 17 or 18-year-old. I'm sure I told them the other day, I don't think I would have graduated from high school if I had had access to all this music and movies and things on television. I wouldn't have done my homework. I would have been listening to music and streaming movies and flunking out of school. So the fact that they have any amount of willpower, I think, is something to celebrate.
I love that. Awesome. All right. Grace to you. Grace to all the young ones. And keep up the good work, Carrie. You're doing some great, great stuff. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, y'all. Next week, man, powerful stuff. See y'all later. Say goodbye to the folks, Carrie.
Bye. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. See ya. Hey, we're coming back for just a second because I know Carrie had mentioned bringing an AI student into the classroom. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so we were discussing the fact that a lot of young people can make friends, like physically create friends using AI. And so there's plenty of programs out there now where you can make a romantic partner, you can make a best friend, you can make, and so you can have like conversations with them. They're very lifelike looking. You know, set your phone up almost as if you were, having a meeting like this, but instead of it being me, it'd be an AI, like Eden making an AI guest for the podcast and developing what you want that AI bot's personality to be, what should they look like, and it was just very interesting to ask the AI student in our discussion about AI its feelings about itself. So that, I mean, some great critical thinking on the part of the students. I said, okay, so now we have this AI student in our discussion circle. What should we ask this student?
Yeah, and you said it was a little creepy.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because we're asking it, you know, like, do you feel human, or do you recognize that you are a computer? And it was like, I recognize that I am a computer. And so then one of my students, and I'm like, oh, I love the critical thinking, asked, do you think that you deserve the same amount of rights as a human?
What was the answer?
And that it was complex, but it felt like it did have its own feelings and emotions, and it would appreciate, not like, don't unfriend me, don't exclude me from the conversation, like, yeah. And so,
Holy smokes. Okay, I think
right.
this was important, and knowing that I also have heard that people are using AI as their therapist now.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, that in terms of ascending, going to AI, I really put discernment out there for that. Oh, and then I don't know if Carrie, you might have been aware that Chat GPT, I think they were upgrading it from 2 to 3 or 3 to 4. I'm not getting this correct, but Chat GPT would not shut down. I don't know if
Oh,
you heard of that. So I was on like regular media outlets as well. Yeah. So guys, please keep your discernment with that. Please. Thank you
yeah,
for sharing, Carrie.
no
Anything else you want to
problem.
add to that?
Well, I think also in this, when we talk about like what draws us to the phone, and it's
Mm.
these companies preying on that like primal fear-based reactionary feeling that humans can get. And so now with I mean, the amount of things being like spread across the internet and social media that are AI generated just to, I don't know, get to that, oh, that fear-based, oh no. So, well, I better click on this because this is
Yeah.
dangerous or bad. I think is just compounding the anxiety that we're seeing in people, the depression we're seeing in people. And I just think, like, what ethical check are we putting on the development of this technology?
There you go. Think about that, y'all. All right. Thanks, Carrie.
You're welcome.
Y'all, find me on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, True Social, as well as Rumble, BitChute, YouTube, plus a plethora of other audio directories like Apple Podcasts and Spotify. So like, subscribe, do it all. See ya.